Wait, I think we went live without me
We're
running it.
live.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of That Christian Panel here on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I'm one of your panelists, Keri. I made a mistake at the beginning and you saw us before the intro video. Yay! Please welcome. Tonight we have a very special guest. You guys might recognize him. We've had him on the program before. It's been a little bit, but we are blessed to be joined by actor and voice actor VIC MIGNOGNA. Hello, Vic. How are you?
Hello, Keri. What a pleasure to join you guys again. Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. You're here for, it's very appropriate to have you for this episode because if you guys didn't already see from the video description, we're going to be reviewing a brand new film. It's an animated film coming out from Angel Studios on April 11th, and it's called The King of Kings. And so we're happy to have you, Vic. This movie was actually recommended to us by Mr. Odin of OMB Reviews. Hello, Odin.
Hey, yeah, I'd just gotten reached out to by Angel Studios with the screener, and so I thought, hey, might as well take an opportunity to talk about it because it does not come out wide until Easter. So good for us to kind of give.
We're actually ahead of the curve for once.
We are, absolutely.
We're ahead of the curve, you guys. And this one, I was telling the folks before we started, my screener expired with 30 minutes left for me to watch. So I didn't see the ending of this movie, but I think I know how it ends, which is
nobody in the chat section tell her how it ends, all right?
which is with my salvation. Praise God. And but because of that, I'm gonna go see it when it's in theaters. I think I'm gonna take my husband to see this. It's gonna be out, as we said, April 11th. It's coming out for Easter, and it's called The King of Kings. It is an animated movie, and you guys all got to watch the whole thing. You saw the whole thing, Brahma Bull?
Yep, watched the whole thing. It was interesting. I'm glad we got to watch it. It wasn't really made for guys our age or people our age in any way, but I immediately called my sister, who has boys ranging from like 2 to 10, I think, and said, "Yeah, you'll have to make a date to watch this one."
So what did you guys think of it then? Let's just jump in.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm not going to be the first because I'm a guest on the show. You guys are.
Well,
so I'm not gonna be the first, but I, as a voice actor and voice director and animation, being involved in that industry for a very long time, I have a lot of thoughts. But go ahead, somebody else go first.
Well, I loved it.
I thought the cast was very interesting group of actors doing the voices for this. Just because people probably don't know who's in this. It has Mark Hamill, Oscar Isaacs, Pierce Brosnan, Uma Thurman, Kenneth Branagh, and Ben Kingsley, and Forrest Whitaker doing voices in this. And Mark Hamill especially, you'll instantly recognize if you've ever watched the Batman animated series. Because he essentially does the Joker voice.
Oh, I just looked up the IMDb. I didn't recognize his voice. He plays King Herod.
Yeah, he's only in it for about 10 minutes, maybe, if that. I mean, because the whole thing is basically vignettes from Christ's life. I mean, so it's like 12 different stories that go throughout Christ's life. So the Herod portion of the story is very, very small in the movie. But the voice stuck out to me. That's when I went and looked it up and found out who all was doing these voices. So
why don't I put up the trailer first before we just get into the nitty gritty of what we thought about it?
This
might be good. So people have an idea of what we're talking about. And maybe we'll get to hear a bit of Mark Hamill as King Herod in the trailer. Here we go. This is from Angel Studios.
Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me for just a moment.
King Arthur!
Get down from there!
1, 2, 3!
You are not King Arthur!
Charles, you're going to tell him a great story about forgiveness.
Can we do this without the cat?
Stop right there.
Our story begins 2,000 years ago when baby Jesus came into the world.
Wait, stop. If it's not about a king, then I'm not interested.
This story is about the King of Kings.
If you're with me, then I know that I will fly.
It has angels and wicked kings and miracles.
Look at all the fish.
Oh, so you want to hear the story now? Why don't we help Jesus along the way? There's not nearly enough food here to feed all of these people.
I hope this helps.
Look! There's something out there!
Not scared anymore, like I used to be.
Don't be afraid. This was a miracle to some, but a threat to others. Why don't we just turn the people against him?
Open up my eyes and see. I'm not only wishing, dreaming.
Thank you.
Can't we help it?
Yes, but not the way you think.
Thank you, Daddy.
It's time.
I will fly.
This is what my father wants. I'll accept it, and so should you. You see, a true king serves his subjects.
I will fly.
If you have faith, you'll become stronger than before. It is a great story.
King of Kings from
There we go. So that's it. Oh, I love it. I got goosebumps just during the trailer. Okay. So
it's real. I'm just going to say one thing real quick. Watching the trailer, it's it's interesting that the way that they approached some of the more graphic and intense moments of Jesus' life, but simply by virtue of the fact that it's computer animation, it takes a little bit of the, you know what I mean, a little bit of the viscerality, if that's a word, the visceral nature of it out, and makes it digestible and not quite so off-putting probably to children, and hopefully parents will see the benefit, the great value of taking their kids to see it, as opposed to thinking, oh, well, I don't want to expose my kids to like demons and crucifixion and all that kind of gore and stuff. It was handled very well, very well.
Yeah, I thought that the choices they made were very good, especially with kids as the audience being in mind. Like, so moments when Jesus gets struck, they pick a very like generic thumping sound versus like the sound of an actual whip or a sound of something actually like hitting flesh or anything like that. So it's much more blunted. One of the things I thought was probably the most unique was when they show Jesus on the cross, they show you his body as it's on there, but the sides, the edges are blurred. And so you can't actually see the wounds on his hands. And I thought that was also, again, a very cognizant of the audience that this film is clearly being made for.
Yeah.
Yeah. The scene where he casts the demons into the pigs and then the pigs go off the cliff, I was like, okay. And then they go into a lake instead of just falling off the cliff and, exploding or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, they made some definite decisions on how to keep it extremely kid friendly.
Yeah. And then even we were talking before the show about Mark Hamill voicing Herod. And if anyone knows the story, they know that Herod ordered every child 2 years old and younger to be butchered just to be safe, just to make sure that he got Jesus. And I mean, I remember when he first showed up and the wise men came to him, and I thought, how are they going to handle this? You know, is he really going to tell his people to go and, you know, kill, you know, every innocent boy 2 years old and younger? And it was very tastefully done.
Yes.
I think instead of, I'm trying to remember, but I think instead of saying, you know, kill every boy born 2 years old or earlier, to something like do away with them, or say, you know what I mean? It was
Find them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get rid of them or something like that.
Yeah.
I really love the animation style too. I really, really loved the style of the faces, just the way they chose to draw the characters. It was really interesting. Very, very blocky, very, very hard edges, accentuated features, and yet the eyes were very emotive and very realistic. Yeah, I sat there the whole time watching it, just kind of doing this.
Yeah.
Because as a voice actor, I mean, this kind of thing would be my dream, to be able to voice act characters in something, you know, of such great impact and import.
Yes. And such a talented group that they brought together for something of such import, as you said.
Yes.
You know, I'm so glad you went over the list of people they had, Brahma, because I didn't look at the full list, but I saw Forrest Whitaker on there, and then
He was Peter.
It was Peter.
That was one of the funny, that was actually kind of a little distracting to me, because I'm like, it's Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker's Peter. What?
I can't tell any of the voices. I just know they were good actors. They weren't just like, you know, they weren't crappy actors. They were very good.
I thought the best of all of them was actually Pierce Brosnan doing Pilot.
Oh yeah,
he sounded fantastic in that role.
Wow,
it was wonderful. You know, I think maybe my favorite part was the way that they chose to integrate the little boy and his cat into the story. You know, they didn't confine them to a bedroom in their house where the dad was just telling them the story. But he kept finding himself in the midst of the story. And the one that stuck out to me that almost brought a tear to my eye was when Jesus entered the city and they were laying palm leaves out, and he was entering Jerusalem, and the little boy is walking along, watching all of this as if he's actually there. And then he looks up and here's Jesus holding his cat. And I thought, what a beautiful integration. You know, what a perfect example of a child's imagination, you know, and throwing yourself into a story and like seeing yourself actually there, and being transported, you know, away from the living room in your house, or your dad reading a book, or, you know, laying in your bed or whatever. I love the way they did that. It kind of reminded me, you guys remember Princess Bride?
That's what I wrote in my notes.
It kind of reminded me, wait, is this a kissing story? You know what I mean? Like,
he actually makes a statement. He says, is this a baby story?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I love that, the point of view of doing it from the father telling the son a story. Yes, it made me think of the Princess Bride too. That's so funny. And I like the fact that I didn't watch the trailer actually until just now. I didn't see it beforehand. And it's so interesting the way they highlight the relationship between a father and a son, meaning God the Father and Jesus the Son, but also you've got that relationship, you know, you're seeing the whole thing through the point of view of a father and son relationship, you know, as he's like telling the greatest story ever told.
Well, on the scene that Vic just mentioned where Jesus is holding the cat, it then morphs into his dad holding the cat because his dad found the cat. So there was more imagery there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the way they did that. You know, you guys were mentioning at the very beginning, you said something about this not being for our age group. It's definitely, this is a movie for kids, but I thought maybe this is maybe it's for kids and women, but I thought it was actually, I don't know. I thought it's one of these kind of movies that adults, I don't have children, but I really enjoyed it. And it brought some things to life for me. And maybe in the place where I needed to see this movie, but there were some emotional scenes. And even though, like you said, they definitely, they know that their target audience is children. And so they are certain things that they're not going to show the brutality of and the violence of certain things. They will allude to it, but they're not going to show the full picture. But you still get all the emotions of the terror and the fear. And even at the beginning with King Herod, as you mentioned, when he's hunting down all the babies, like the way they use the background music and everything is sort of climactic to these like really sort of scary moments when Jesus is out preaching and he's healing people and he's healing the sick, and it's sort of like there are these Pharisees who you get the impression these are bad guys. And if they find out what he's doing, it's going to be a problem. And that's building this tension. I thought they did a great job with that.
And, they don't have to show, I think that's one of the big, what's the word? I think that's one of the big lies of Hollywood is that, we need to show this gore and, and it'll play better if we show all of this blood and violence. And I don't, if a story is well written, I don't think you necessarily have to depend on that kind of thing. And by not having it in there, number one, you leave more to the imagination, which is always a good thing. And number two, you broaden your audience because parents that might want to take their kids to something, how many times has a parent going, man, I'd love to take my kids to this, but I can't, I'm not going to subject them to that kind of thing. It's one of those things like it's like sexual stuff, like they're just so convinced that has to be part of every movie. And it doesn't, it really doesn't. You look at the top 10 movies of all time, top 10 grossing movies of all time, and you won't find a lot of any of those things. And yet so many studios seem to think it's absolutely necessary in order to get adults into the theater. Mm-hmm. And it's really not. And if adults can take their kids to a movie and know that there's not going to be anything they're going to have to explain to their kids or expose their kids to a little too early in life kind of thing, then they just have a broader appeal.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of I normally do a live stream myself, as you know, Keri. Mm-hmm. I normally do a live stream from 6 to 7 right now.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm seeing a lot of my people in the chat.
Oh, hey, guys. Welcome. Welcome to the program.
Us, Lydia and Yana and Betavez and Wolf Tamer and a lot of these people. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And thanks for letting us borrow Vic so we could talk about this movie. So what about you, Odin? I feel like because you probably review more movies than any of us put together. You have your OMB reviews channel. What do you think about this film?
I hate to be on that train again with Angel Studios.
Oh no,
movies. Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. I thought that what they were trying to do, like the main objective, or I guess you could say the main idea, was a really good one. Like I liked everything about the concept of telling, Charles Dickens telling the story and integrating them into the story of Christ. I thought that was all well intentioned. It just, for me, the execution I don't know. I wasn't feeling it as much. And I think a big part of it is because, one, I think that you're right, like was mentioned earlier, about it being made more so for the kids. It's not really being made for our age group. But then also, like, I of course, as someone who studies theology, I look at it from a theological lens too. So there were several things in there where I was like, oh, really? They're going that direction with this? And like, oh, they're doing this, and oh, they're doing that. And one line to me, like, that really just... It made me facepalm because I thought it was really poorly chosen. At one point, when they're calling for Christ's death, you literally have these people yelling, "Yes, the death penalty! Yes, the death penalty! The death penalty!" And I'm like, why in the heck are they saying the death penalty? Like, I'm like, of all the things to say, it's like, crucify him, or like death, but it's like death penalty, and I'm like, why are they saying?
Oh,
death
they're trying to bring it into the modern day.
I
Is that
guess.
it?
His life stop.
Yeah. And I'm just like, why are you saying this right now? I had to write it down. I was just like, are they really just saying yes, the death penalty right now?
I didn't notice that specific one,
Yeah.
but it was interesting because they tried to keep the speech patterns for the Dickens family kind of locked to that time period, but then during all the biblical stuff, it was modern day language for the most
It
part.
felt more modern day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which seemed weird.
Yeah.
From a voice standpoint, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, there were a lot of great performances, and I've told a lot of fans in Q&A sessions and panels over the years, when talking about voice acting, the operative word in voice acting is acting. It's not changing your voice, it's not imitating somebody else, it's not even having a great voice. It's playing a character. It's playing a character authentically and believably. And I think there were so many great performances, but had I been directing this, I think I might have, and this may be totally subjective, I think I might have, had I been directing, tried to dial a little more gravitas into Jesus' voice, into the actor who played Jesus. His performance, his delivery was great, but I feel like, because he is who he is, and I'm not talking about some booming God voice, but I'm talking about the difference between one of you will betray me and one of you will betray me.
Mm.
Just giving it a little more oomph,
We're kind of on the same wavelength on that one. I think my notes, I put Oscar Isaacs could have put more emotion into voicing Jesus. He seemed to be doing it the very typical soft-spoken stoic style, and it came off as a little bit robotic. So I agree completely on that one character. I think everybody else, I kind of liked most of the other performances, but I thought that main one was just a little bit flat.
So interesting, yeah.
I thought Forrest Whitaker was a bit New York. I don't know. I kept hearing Forrest Whitaker in New York. Like I had a flashback. I was having a flashback to his performance in Phone Booth, when he plays like he plays like the cop, and he's just like, he's a New York cop kind of thing. Like that's kind of what I was hearing, and I was just like, oh, there's Forrest Whitaker. Every time I'm just like, oh, look at that.
Once the modern came into your head, it was hard to get it out of there.
Yeah.
Like Peter was actually a thug from the Bronx,
Yeah, but kids aren't
Hey,
gonna.
you gotta pay up. What can I say?
I'm sinking, Lord. I'm sinking.
Fishes. What do you think? They fall from trees? Come on, pay up.
Yeah, kids aren't gonna.
They're not gonna care or pick up on it.
And even I love Forrest Whitaker. I'm trying to think. What's that movie he was in? Ghostface something. Anyway, I when I was younger, I watched a lot of his movies, but I didn't even pick up on the fact that was him. So some of us, I guess, I just tuned it out. For the most part. Now, what about the scene? Okay, Odin. I have to come back to this for a second because I love this. I was like, this is a win for Angel after we've been like kind of weren't 100% on.
I will say it's not a loser for Angel.
It's not a lose.
I still think that, again, the concept of this is really good, and that's kind of like the theme. A lot of the other films that they've done, it's like, okay, I really like the ideas. It was the execution. This suffers from that same type of execution issues. The difference is that this is not geared towards an adult audience like the other ones were. The other ones were for us. Like the other ones were made for us, and I'm like, okay, that's not translating well. But the fact that this is for kids, it's like, no, this would actually be a good film for a younger kid, especially like single digit age, to be able to experience the story of Jesus like in a like other medium other than scripture. like especially if you're maybe trying to find a less violent way to introduce people to his life and just children especially. I think it's going to be very good as like almost like a catechetical, like a teaching tool for that demographic, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know what?
Do you-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just
No.
to follow up on that. You think it's good for introducing kids to like I think do you think it's good for kids who might think oh, the Bible, that's going to be boring? Because the main character, the little boy at the beginning, he's sort of like, oh, I don't want to hear about it unless it's got swords and dragons, And I thought they did a good job of making it very interesting for children. What do you
Mhm.
think about that?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that again for single digit age, I think that it'll definitely have that type of effect on them. I think anything maybe getting into the double digits and especially like the preteens, I don't think that they will find it nearly as moving or as impressive. But
They'll find
for
it
the younger
childish.
audiences, yeah,
And
Yeah, then
from an
Go ahead, Vic.
evangelical standpoint, single digit kids don't go to the theater by themselves,
mm-hmm.
which means their parents take them. Their parents walk in looking for a movie that everybody can watch, and from a standpoint of wanting to share the gospel story with everybody, parents who might think, oh, I'm going to take my kids to see that animated Jesus movie might inadvertently find themselves convicted, you know what I mean, and drawn to a relationship with Christ because of something, that maybe struck them differently than it had before, or watching their children become invested in it might open their hearts a little bit in new ways. I always think like in terms of, the what do they call it? Like the collateral damage kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like here's your target, but there are all these people, these other people that might be affected by it as well, who
Yes.
inadvertently found themselves in the theater because they took their niece or they took their kids or whatever.
Yeah, I was moved
Yeah.
watching it as an
and
adult.
I was kind of with Odin. I understand the framing of it. I didn't care for the framing of it as much. I like the almost Princess Bride way that they were telling it, but I thought it interrupted too often for me. But for a kid, I think what that does is breaks up, like I was saying earlier, it's like vignettes, it's bite-sized stories. So, the kids don't have the longest attention span. So you've got to switch everything up kind of constantly to keep their attention. But going back and rewatching, they may just want to watch this part of the story of Jesus, and you can just fast forward the movie to that, that 10, 15 minute chunk of Jesus's life that they want to watch, that kind of thing. So I get it. It didn't work for me, but it'll definitely work for kids, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
as them being the target audience, I think they were very effective in the way they put together the movie.
Yeah.
I wasn't
somebody in your
aware.
chat
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say somebody in your chat just reminded me that I was in an animated Jesus film.
Oh, yeah.
Were you?
I was in an animated Jesus feature film called Lion of Judah,
Okay.
and it was the Jesus story, but it was told through the perspective of animals.
Oh.
And I was this raven who, of course, bad guy. I was the sidekick or the second in command, and the main raven was Michael Madsen. Was the voice of the main raven, and he was, kind of the darker, evil guy. But it was all told through from the animals that were in the stable, to the donkey that carried them to Egypt, there were always animals peripherally, if you know what I mean, in throughout the story, and they were the ones that were speaking and telling the story.
People are asking, what was the name of that?
The Lion of Judah.
The Lion of Judah. Okay.
It was produced by a gentleman in South Africa, and it was many, many years ago. There were several well-known actors in it. I was not one of them, but I was just a voice actor. I don't even know how he found me, but he messaged me and asked me if I, wanted to be in it. And I'm like, yeah, that would be fun.
There's some info about it on the screen from Davina. Thank you, Davina. 2011 animated Christian comedy drama. Awesome.
Thank you, Vina.
Thank you very much. So I had a question. Wait a minute, it'll come back to me. I'm at that stage of life where I'm forgetting things. So
I know that stage well.
I just had it and now it's gone.
You can blame me on that one because I
Oh
kind of
no, that's fine.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I was interrupting you. Well, anything that anybody else would like to add about it?
Well, I did look into a little bit of background on why they chose Dickens
That's
to do
that's
this.
what it was. I didn't realize it was Charles Dickens. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Dickens actually did write a version of the gospel for his kids. So that part is actually true. It was not released, I think, during his lifetime. He kept it very private to his family. But yeah, there was some stuff on Dickens that, like, he was a member of the Church of England. He was pretty private about his faith, though. But then if you know about some of his faith, he did stick it into almost all of his works. He wanted all of his works to be almost read like parables, where all of them had a moral guide to how to live a moral life. But he was very against dogma and doctrinal beliefs.
Yes. So I just looked it up. So that story that he wrote was like you said, it was for his kids, and it was called The Life of Our Lord. And he wrote it around the same time he was completing David Copperfield. But when I was watching this, it was lost on me. I know that the wife at the beginning is calling him Charles, and you see him in the theater, and he's trying to do a performance of A Christmas Carol. And his little son interrupts, and it still did not click with me that when she's calling him Charles, that he is Charles Dickens. So I was just about to ask, like, what was the significance of doing that? Also, I didn't know Charles Dickens was an amateur actor before he became well known as a writer.
I didn't know that part, but I did pull up a quote from Dickens about his faith, or about his craft, I guess. So he wrote in a letter to his friend, who was a reverend, with a deep sense of my great responsibility always upon me when I exercise my art, one of my most constant and most earnest endeavors has been to exhibit in all my good people some faint reflections of the teachings of our great master, and unostentatiously to lead the reader up to those teachings as the great source of moral goodness. All my strongest illustrations are derived from the New Testament. All my social abuses, where did it go? All my social abuses are shown as departures from its spirit. All my good people are humble, charitable, faithful, and forgiving. Over and over again, I claim them in express words as disciples of of the founder of our religion. So that was kind of his take on his characters from his books and stuff. So I found that one interesting. I didn't know any of that about Dickens.
Yeah, me either. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So the movie did teach me some stuff. I had to go research after to figure some of that stuff out and why they would frame it this way. But I did learn some stuff, even if it was sideways to the movie.
Cool. Did you know this history, Odin? Charles Dickens?
Yeah, I mean, because I think I read the preview of the story before I actually watched it, so I didn't know about it before then. But it was interesting because I did not know until the very end that this was actually based off of one of his works. Because I just assumed, oh, that's an interesting way of being like, oh, I'm going to tell this through Charles Dickens. I'm wondering if maybe there's some source material that's going to be based off of in some way. But I didn't really make that direct connection until, at the very end, it mentions how it was an adaptation of that story. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's very nice. Well, I highly recommend it. I figured this was going to be a short one for us, and I don't want to belabor it and make it longer than it needs to be. If you have other things you'd like to say about the film, let me know. But I definitely, I love it. I'm going to go see it. So, first of all, I need to see how it ends. But I'm going to go see it when it's in theaters. I like any excuse. I told the lady when I got the screen, I was like, all the other ones that we've reviewed on this channel, I've been able to go see in the theater, almost all of them. because I like an excuse to go to the movies like old times. And, you know, when we were, that's what we used to do is you went go several times a month. That's how you saw movies. And so
Yeah.
I'll definitely be going back to the theaters for this one.
You know, from a production standpoint too, I just want to really give kudos to the animators. There were several scenes. I'm talking about like wide shots, like establishing shots of the countryside and the sun in the distance and the way it played off the characters. There were a lot of, I mean, I was watching it right here and in my studio, and I several times right out loud, I thought, wow, that's beautiful. And when you know it was all created in a computer, somebody, you know, had to make those decisions about, you know, the way the light was going to play off different things and the color temperatures and all of that. And I thought whoever was involved in the actual animation of it did a fantastic job. It was beautiful.
Yeah, the only other thing I would mention is if you are a stickler for biblical accuracy or like just theological interpretation, those are some things that could, but like that's why again, it's not going to affect a kid who this is being directed to, because they don't care about that kind of stuff. But for me, it was like the very little things, especially as we got towards the end, where it was like, oh, he's just carrying the crossbeam and not the full cross. Oh, it's like that's like where my mind went with it. It's like, oh, they nailed his wrist instead of his hands, and I'm like, I know that like there's historical, you know, references that you could look to say that's how it typically would have been done at that time. But it's like, for me, it's like, yeah, but tradition tells us it was his hands, and tradition tells us it was the full cross, not just the cross beam. And so it's like that was like where my mind went with it. I was just like tiny little you know things.
But overall, the accuracy is, I mean, like tiny details,
yeah,
maybe messed up, but the overall accuracy of the biblical tales are there.
There was only one where the narrative I felt like was changed to any degree. Excuse me. And it was before the driving out, it was before the stoning of the woman caught in adultery, because they instead of it having this be an event that happens, they have it be something that's directly planned by the scribes and Pharisees.
Right.
Like that's the only that I can remember. That's the only
That's
more
right.
direct change. Yeah,
That's true.
kind of just to bring a villain arc into the movie.
Yeah.
And they also had him right on the ground first. I don't recall that. So,
well, because he's riding on the ground like as that's going on, but yeah, not the first thing.
Yeah. So, but overall, pretty accurate. It would be a perfect movie to show your kids for an accurate depiction of Christ's life for little kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was just playing. That was an alternate trailer while Vic was talking about some of the animation. I just wanted to have that in the background. It's beautiful.
Some of those images are just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Randy Wallen, thank you for the super chat, Randy, for $10. He says, when is this panel going to do a deep dive on The Chosen? God bless you all. I've never seen The Chosen, and let me tell you, I know Therese, one of my mods, is always telling me I have to see it. I've had so many people tell me I have to see it, and I know I'm going to get to it eventually because it's been recommended by so many. Have none of you seen it either?
I think I've seen one episode.
No, I've been meaning to see it. I've heard, as you said, Keri, a lot of people are like, oh, it's so fantastic. And I want to see it. My wife and I have talked about, in fact, when I told her that I was going to be doing this and watching the screener from the same studio that did The Chosen, she was like, yeah, we really should get into that. I'd love to see it, just to see how they, more than anything, to see how they handle the biblical story. Like Odin said, I've spent most of my life in teaching in having been taught the scripture and the details of the scripture and the gospel narrative. It would be very interesting to see how it's handled.
Oh yeah, lots of people in the chat have seen it. Everybody's saying, "Oh, they need to." What? Never. It's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a while before we review it though, because getting us to do anything is like wrangling cats.
It's so true though. It is.
Half
But
the
also-
time we pick the topic like 3 hours before.
I will say,
Not this time.
Not this time.
Not this time. We actually had a plan. But I will say this is probably the only show that would be able to get me to watch the series. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
And the only reason why is because I have just, again, this is all because of hearsay, but I've heard about the changes and I've heard about some of the adaptations. And again, if the small things in the movie that we just reviewed bothered me, I can only imagine what like something that's actually like meant more for like someone of my age to be like, oh man, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna nitpick that, and like just to be like, oh, drive me crazy.
We're gonna have to do this, I think, just to see. Look, I'll hold you to
Torture
it.
me. That's the reason why you want to really do it. Yeah.
You know, I've heard that too. I've heard that as well.
Some things. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
That they took a lot of liberties with some things, and
Well, and that's kind of why I'm curious, and I know I'm going to watch it eventually, Vic, because I hear both. I hear from people that I respect and trust that it's amazing and it's true to the story of Jesus, but yes, they take some liberties with certain things. And then I've heard from others that say, yeah, but the liberties they take for those certain things are enough that make it, you shouldn't watch it. And so I want to see, because I'm like, I trust both of these camps of people. So
Well, I mean, to make a show like that, you've got to dramatize it a little bit. I mean, we don't know every conversation that happened every single day, so you've got to do some stuff to make it into an actual TV drama. So part of it makes sense. It depends on if they hit the main points and stick true to all that.
Right.
For me,
I'm looking at the chat here, Keri, and you see the word ribs show up. That stands for Rangers in Bible Study. My fan club is called the Rissenbuhl Rangers, named after the little town that a character I played comes from in one of the shows I did. And several years ago, we started a Bible study for any fans that were in the fan club that wanted to do this. And apparently, Hardy Girl reminds me that they watched The Chosen in the Bible study. So,
well, that looks like you're going to have to do it with us, Vic.
Well, I would love to.
You'll have to be a part of it. I think this is one of somebody who's on your channel, BetaVex. Thank you, BetaVex, for the $5 super chat. Says, I think it serves as a good visual for kids without it being too intensely gory. Yes, that's a great recommendation for this movie. BetaVex says, or you do it with us. Wait, hey, I'm talking about you guys. We can coincide.
Yeah, you guys should always be in here, by the way, because Keri's awesome, so you should always be in here.
We could do it at the same time. And then somebody says, yes, but again, don't replace. I think you mean don't replace the Bible with Chosen. Yes, agreed.
Right. And there's a scripture that comes to mind. The Apostle Paul said, I am become all things to all men that I might by all means save some. I have always kind of interpreted that in my mind as to look for ways to present the gospel in a way that any particular group that you're talking to, or anyone whose life yours intersects with, will point them to Christ ultimately. I think sometimes Christians get off on small details and they miss the forest for the trees, if you know what I mean. They want to argue about, I don't know, I don't even dare want to pick a topic because I may tick somebody off, but they may want to argue about, did Jesus really have long hair, or which translation is really the right one? And meanwhile, people need to know, what I mean, the simple fact that God loves them, that Christ died for them, that by accepting his sacrifice, they can reestablish their relationship with their Creator. And I find as I've gotten older that too many people often focus on details and they're missing the real vital importance of, we can argue about these piddly things in eternity. You know what I mean? We can sit around in eternity. We have forever to discuss these little things or figure out what was right or what was not so right. But I'd like to think that maybe the most important thing is leading people to a saving relationship with Jesus.
Yes.
Yep.
Leading people to Christ. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing your insights, not just as a Christian, but also as an actor, somebody who's in this world. And where can people find you, Vic? I want to make sure we get that information out.
Oh,
Before we start closing out, Vic, right at the beginning when you said I'm the guest, I've got some things about the voice acting. Was there anything else about the voice acting that you wanted to?
well, no,
Sure.
I was very impressed. I tried not to. I have this horrible habit, and it seems like maybe somebody else here does too, of getting fixated on. I know that voice. Who is that voice? And you start going through the catalog of movies and voices, and what you're not doing is you're missing the story. Because you're who was that voice? What? And you replay scenes from other movies. I do that too. So I purposefully tried not to do that this time. And I didn't really recognize any specific voices right off the bat. But overall, I thought that the voice acting was very, very good. But I did, feel like, the Bible says that Jesus was fully God and fully man. That makes for a lot of emotion. And like you guys mentioned, I think it might have helped it if the voice actor of Jesus might have dialed in a little more passion, a little more emotion, a little more gravitas for the character that he was playing. But apart from that, that was the main thing that
was the main one
from a voice acting standpoint.
Yeah. I think a great example of that too is with Mark Hamill's performance. It's like I could tell it was Mark Hamill, but it was different enough to where I didn't always hear. It wasn't like Mark Hamill was just like, "Hey guys, I'm
right,
I'm King Herod," But whereas some of the other ones, I think Oscar Isaac as Jesus was an example of that. It's like, okay, that's just Oscar Isaac, performing, but he's not doing a voice, right? Because you can perform as yourself, right? And you're just being yourself, but you're still performing. But you could then also have a voice for the character. And the other example is Mickey 17, which just recently came out. The movie's not very good, but who is really good is Robert Pattinson, because I listened to him and I'm like, wait, that's Robert Pattinson? I would never have known
Who
his
was Robert
voice.
Pattinson?
Oh, he's
Mickey 17?
It's another movie, Keri.
It's a different movie. I'm talking about Mickey 17. Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
What I'm saying is in that, his voice is so different. I'm like, I don't even know who this is anymore because of that performance. And so I wish a couple of the voice actors had maybe done a little bit more. Because again, that's where the Forrest Whitaker thing. I was like, okay, that's just Forrest Whitaker. I was like, I can't hear the Forrest Whitaker.
Then it becomes whatever celebrity reads the Bible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Pierce Brosnan, I did not actually recognize Pierce Brosnan as Pontius Pilate. Instead, my mind was on they're making him kind of this pompous, arrogant.
It reminded me of him playing. Oh, what was the superhero movie he was in a couple years ago? Where?
Oh yeah. Shazam, Fear of the Gods. Was he in?
Was it Shazam that he was in? I think it was. Or
was it Black Adam?
Black Adam.
That was it, because he was the best part. He was the best part of the movie.
He was the best part, and it sounded very much like it's probably how he just sounds now.
So he basically turned it into Pompous Pilate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pontius Pilate.
Exactly.
It's funny, we were talking about this, and I don't want to drag this out, but I would love to share this with you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe even get your input on it. My church is preparing an Easter service, and they asked me to record some monologues as Jesus. And they said, we want you to do this, and I wrote them back and said, do you want a human Jesus, or do you want a more God-like Son of God Jesus? And they wrote back and said, that's a good question. let me think about it. And then I wrote him and said, and do you want him to have a Middle Eastern accent? Because, you know, everybody knows that's where he came from, but some people might think that might be too distracting, you know, so you wouldn't want to do that. And she wrote back, wow, these are a lot of questions I didn't really think about. We'll get back to you. So I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I'm kind of excited about it.
Nice. It kind of reminds me a bit of, because I haven't seen The Chosen, but I do know enough about it to know Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus. He also does a lot of stuff for an app called Hallow, which is a really great prayer app. And it always jars me is like he'll do his introduction. He's Jonathan Rumi speaking, but then he'll read scripture. At least I don't know if he's still doing this, but like there were a couple of years early on when he would, as soon as he would start reading from scripture and Jesus would speak, he would put on like the Middle Eastern accent, and I, like the one he does from the show, like because he has that. And so I was just like, oh, that's interesting, because I was just like, oh, I guess you could still get away with that today. That's like I thought you would just get canceled by doing an accent these days
in certain segments.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it certainly differentiates him from the narrator. You know, if he's reading everything, it's like, oh, that's Jesus talking now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited though, because she said, can you give us an example? And I said, well, I need some copy. Like what he says, you know, is incredibly important to how you say it. Like you can't just pick a line and do it, because if you don't have the actual script yet, you know what I mean? You don't really know how you're going to emote into the, you know, you can't just say, here, read this bill from the insurance company and let's hear your Jesus voice, you know. It really depends on what you're saying and how you're saying it. Like the way
for
Jesus,
the month of March.
What?
$250. How's that sound, guys?
Perfect. You got it. You got the job. But you know, it's just one of those things that voice actors think about, you know, like how Jesus would maybe talk to Peter in a tender moment would be very different than how Jesus would talk when he's overthrowing the tables in the temple. You have to take into account the context and the situation, and exactly what you're saying, you know, is going to affect how you say it. And maybe self-evident, but
well, I mean, yeah, anytime somebody's asked me to do anything like that, it's like, well, can I see at least a rough script for it? Because like, it kind of guides the way you're going to do the voice, whether it's going to be questioning or enthusiastic, or, you know, all those kinds of emotions into the voice. So,
and so many different ways to read the same thing too, you know. That's why direction and context is very important.
I'm just listening and realizing this is why I'm not an actor, because this is something that comes naturally to some of you, and you think of it. And I have a friend, some of you know him. It's I'm blanking XRL. I'm blanking.
Mike Evans, XRL7.
Mike Evans.
That's the person that we've both done voice work for.
Yes, and it's so much fun. But I think I just do my voice. I don't know. I'm
well,
like,
apparently so does Forrest Whitaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in good company, I think.
I'm like, oh, and
go
then,
away from me, Lord. I'm a sinful man.
Okay, can I show you? You know, Odin, I always wanted to have some memes pull up for you, and I never do.
Oh, yes.
Can I show you some?
Yes.
I have a couple. Okay. Vic, this is a Christian meme segment that we haven't done in a long time. Just to have a little fun at the end. Here we go. This meme, I feel this meme in my bones. It's Leonardo DiCaprio laughing. It says, when someone tries to insult me, but I sing hymns on Sunday that call me worse things.
Yes.
You posted that one on Twitter, didn't you, Keri?
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh so much.
I actually liked that one.
Yeah, Because I'm a wretch. What are you going to call me that's worse than that?
Right.
Okay, here's one. The atheist robot. Nobody built me. I evolved from a vacuum cleaner. Sorry. And then here's one more. Now you'll have to explain this one to me. Saint John getting ready to write his about Peter in the gospel.
Yeah, because if you don't remember, when they're racing to the tomb, who gets there first?
Right.
So what does that mean? He's gonna be all
Because he's gonna be like, I'm gonna get there first because Peter's gonna be too slow.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Peter bolts right past him. John gets there first, but he stands at the entrance.
Yeah.
Peter comes up a few 5 seconds later, and runs right past him inside.
You always imagine he's like he's just like, he just doesn't even stop, just keeps going.
The tortoise and the hare.
You know what? I don't want to derail any of this, but I just have to say, you guys, I am so fascinated by all of the stuff that's been going on around the Shroud of Turin.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a documentary, I guess, or an interview that Glenn Beck did with this guy who's been studying this for decades, and it's beyond fascinating. It is so compelling. And now, I don't know if you guys see this, but all over the internet, I'm seeing these AI brought to life versions of Jesus based on the image on the shroud. Mm-hmm. And it's jarring, and like so photorealistic and amazing. Amazing.
Oh,
amazing.
no,
It's amazing what they can do with technology now. And I mean, with AI especially, you're going to start to see this, every year it's going to become more and more, detailed in various ways. But it's really cool because I think that, Glenn Beck kind of mentioned this a bit too, where for a long time, the Shroud of Turin was mostly known as like a Catholic thing. But like over the past like decade or so, it's started to become now more like widely accepted and brought into like more like not non-Catholic sects of Christianity as well. Because I mean, it's been a part of like, we have devotions to the holy face of Jesus, and a lot of that is actually from the image of the face on the Shroud of Turin, specifically. And so like, it's really cool now to see so many more people are starting to like recognize like, oh wow, like this is just, and the whole story about it too, about how it was debunked and then it wasn't, and why and how it got debunked, and just all the different elements of, they picked a specific part of the cloth that had been patched, instead of choosing the actual original part, which goes back to 2,000 years. Yeah,
it's very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I understand why there would be reluctance to to let that kind of thing, because people tend to worship sadly people tend to worship the thing rather than what it symbolizes. That's always been the case. Fall all over themselves to touch a piece of wood that might have been this or that, as opposed to, the real treasure and the value is God, a relationship with God and a connection with Jesus. I don't know whether partially, I'm sure a lot of people that don't want that kind of thing to be out there would love to debunk it or silence it. But the new stuff that has just come out about it is really, really fascinating. I would encourage any of you people watching to look it up. It's a really fascinating interview.
I had not even heard about that with the AI.
Oh my gosh, Keri.
Not everything with AI is bad. I'm one of those people, I'm like, if I see AI, lately I just have such a bad feeling about it and everything. But like with any type of technology or tool, there are going to be good things that come from it too. So this is one of those things. It's very interesting.
I think you'll find it fascinating.
Cool. We did have one more super chat. I'm sorry I didn't see this earlier. Randy Wallen for $10 says, judgment prior to investigation. Watch The Chosen, then judge. watch the producers' biblical roundtable panel to understand the decisions made around content. I've heard from someone equals yuck.
Oh, come on. Again, I
But
understand
that's
the
kind of
general
what
sentiment.
we do every day on our shows
Yeah.
is give reviews of movies and shows.
Yeah. And it's also like, I understand the general sentiment, and normally I would agree, but it's not just I heard from some random person that it's bad. It's more, and even they have not said it was bad. But it's like, there are things that you can hear and then verify by saying, oh, I've seen now that scene that's specifically being talked about. Or it's like, okay, this is coming from someone who's looking at it from a theological lens versus just someone who's just taking it in. So there's different ways to do that. And so I disagree with the general premise of
Right.
that one.
Well, plus, I think, didn't we all agree that's why we want to watch it, is because we've heard both. Like that is what we're saying.
Right.
I do intend to watch it one day for that reason, because I've heard such varying things from people who I respect, which is interesting. That's not always the case. Sometimes all the people you respect are saying the same thing. When they're saying different things, then I'm like, okay, I really have to check this out. Like with what was it? The Barbie movie, for example. It's not The Chosen, but everybody I respect had different opinions.
And only one of them was correct.
Only one was correct. True. It was woke. That was mine. I had to watch it to see what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta know what you're. Yeah, you gotta know what you're talking. Yeah, to be able to discuss something intelligently. Sure.
Exactly.
That's what I would never review The Chosen, because I haven't seen it. I'm not going to review a show based, but it's like an anecdotal comment. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah. Well, I really enjoy you guys. Odin, it's been so great to have you here tonight, to have you back, and thanks for recommending this movie. You guys can find it in theaters on April 11th. It's Angel Studios. I'm really just I just love what they're doing. I love that they're giving us films with the scenes and characters and things that we're not getting from the mainstream, and that they would even bring this to us. Oh, and I was going to ask, do you think that Mark Hamill, you said earlier, Vic, that you think somebody might take their kids to this movie and then accidentally find themselves awakened? Do you think that Mark Hamill had an awakening moment when he was, I don't know.
I seriously doubt it, but wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah.
There are some pretty mean jokes I could make about that one, but
I will
we'll
say
leave them
it's-
unsaid.
It is fitting that he is Herod.
That
saying
he's
the
ordering
thing-
the murder
Yes.
of babies.
I was
It's
going to
very
say he's
fitting.
playing a bad guy.
Yes.
But and everybody should go see it if you have the opportunity. And I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. Vic, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us where people can find you and what you have coming up?
Well, thank you. Last week I was at an event signing in Spring, Texas, and this coming weekend I'll be in San Diego.
Oh,
Ninja Exchange, which is a big, awesome store there. I'm going to be doing a big signing there on Saturday, and then I'm going to be at another place in Escondido on Sunday doing a signing. And then the following week I'm headed back to the UK. Actually, I used to do many events over there, conventions and whatnot, and ever since COVID and for years I haven't been back there. So I've been invited back to an event there, and I'm super excited to see as many people as possible in the UK. Then my wife's coming with me, and then we're going to spend a few days in Paris, because I've never been, and so she's been. And
oh,
we're going to have ourselves a little belated honeymoon, and then we're going on from there to Ireland. She's taking a group of her subscribers, and I'm going to morph into their videographer and document the whole thing. And so starting in a couple weeks, we'll be out of the country for a while. But and then, of course, I've got a lot of events lined up throughout the year. They're all going to be announced on my social media. So if you see that I'm going to be anywhere around you guys, please come and say hello. In the meantime, I'm working on an audiobook, working on some new music. I'm actually in some talks with some different film producers about possibly being involved in some live action, faith-based projects, which I have a great passion and desire to be
Yes.
part of. So we'll just pray that God opens the doors that he wants open for me, and I'll have the good sense to walk through them.
I love it, Vic. Have so much fun in Europe on your vacation slash everything you're doing there. I know it's not going to all be vacation, but I'm so excited for you. I've never been to Ireland. I would love to go.
It's
So
beautiful.
good. So
Oh my
good.
goodness.
Yeah,
And
I had done a few events there in the past, but Belfast and Dublin, and most of this time will be in Dublin. But it's a beautiful, beautiful country.
well, I've got your this is your YouTube channel up on the screen. If you're not already subscribed, go and check out Vic's channel. And we appreciate you being with us tonight, Vic. Thank you so much.
Well, let me join you guys. God bless you all. I hope you get to do it again.
Yes, I would love it.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Odin of OMB Reviews, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, you can find me on OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, all the different places. And as far as things coming up, box office preview will be coming up in a day or two, talking about how little Snow White remake is likely going to be making this weekend, and likely going to lose quite a bit of money for Disney. Whereas last year they had $3 billion films, I think this year they're going to have a bunch of $100 million plus flops. At least that's the direction that they're going in right now with
And then
a lot of their
Stitch.
films. And then Stitch might be the one bright spot, at least as of right now. Jury's still out on Thunderbolts and such, but yeah, Lilo and Stitch probably might be the one positive thing for them. But yeah, Friday Night Sights this Friday on Nerdrotics channel, and then Salty Saturday on the Salty Nerd Podcast channel.
Wow, cool. Salty Saturday, that's a good name.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
And then Mr. Brahmabul, what do you have?
Well, in a few hours, I'll be on the Shagsworth channel for the midweek hump, where we just kind of talk about whatever. As far as on my channel, Saturday night, we've got Bourbon and Boarding, where we talk about hockey and talk about our bourbons that we like a little bit. And then Sunday, I've got the Bullpen, where we talk politics.
I love your Sunday show. I want to come back again.
You've got a permanent link.
I'm
You
gonna
just show up anytime you want.
I'm gonna show up. This is from Iris the Vampire. She wanted to let you know that Vic, 100 views of your music video Heart People are from her.
Oh, thank you, Irish the Vampirist. Thank you. You're very, very kind. Hey, Odin, tell everybody at Nerdrotic I said hello.
Will do.
I love those people over there and haven't seen or talked to them in a long time. So please give them my best.
Will do.
Give them our
Odin, are
regard.
you going to Vegas?
No.
I know it's Holy Week, so
Exactly.
No.
It's like the
Yeah.
meetup's Holy Thursday, and I'm like, no.
Right.
Oh
Oh, is
no.
Friday Night Tights having a meetup there?
yeah, Vegas, April 17th.
Oh my goodness.
Are you going, Brahma?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, how fun. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I had a friend ask me, "Are you coming?" Who's based there. I'm like, I don't think so. But you guys have fun. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you for being in the chat. And please go and see this film when it's out and support Angel Studios. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks on that Christian panel here on Deprogrammed. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Night, everybody.